Hey everybody, come on in. This is Conspiracy Theories and Chill. This is a show where we talk conspiracies. Tonight, I have a lot of topics written down to talk about. Usually we have a set topic, but this is a bonus episode of Conspiracy Theories and Chill. A special episode, for VK and for YouTube that are new to Conspiracy Theories and Chill. I want to involve the audience more in the selection of topics, especially since we're a crowd-funded show. I want to do things you guys want to see. So I've got some topics that have been suggested for us to do this coming week on the show for the video and the main topic. So we're going to go over them and see what's the most popular, what you guys want to see, and that's what we'll cover in this week's video on Conspiracy Theories and Chill's regular night on Wednesday. But tonight, I want to get into, like I said, these different topics. But I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what's happening right now. This is called Conspiracy Theories and Chill, but a lot of what we talk about is true and real and happening. A lot of conspiracies turn out to be true and real. And you're just shamed into thinking that you should be ashamed of that term. It was weaponized by the CIA around the time of the Kennedy assassination in order to make people that say anything against the mainstream approved version of events seem crazy, so you wouldn't listen to them. And it works, sadly. But the death of truth is happening right now at a pace that's terrifying to me as somebody that wants to share the truth as well as just a citizen of this planet. It's terrifying to see the net being closed in on us so quickly. They are eliminating the truth. They're killing it off. They're making it to where it doesn't exist. They're trying to close off the channels for it, even. Look what's happening to Julian Assange right now. Sitting in that prison for terrorists for spreading the truth. You know, WikiLeaks is a media site. He is a journalist. They share information. But he's being persecuted for that. And they're doing that to shut the truth down. They don't want that stuff out there. You know, they never disputed that the stuff WikiLeaks released, whether it was true or not. They never disputed that. That never was an issue. They never even wanted to go there because in WikiLeaks' entire history, they've never published anything that wasn't true. The emails are true. They're factual. That's what they're mad about. It's not that they're not true. It's that they are. And if you really read them, which anyone can, if you don't, it's willful ignorance. Read through them. You will see that there is a lot going on, and even more going on that's talked about in code. There is a lot in the WikiLeaks. They're upset about that because there's a mass awakening happening in this country, in this world as well. And this show is meant to be a part of that, help that along, because we need to wake these people up. And I think we need to do it quicker. We need to really try and expose people to the truth and push this along, get this going, get the momentum, to wake people up, to move society forward. I think that's what we need to do is capitalize as much as we possibly can on that because I'm worried about where we're heading in this situation if we don't do something drastic to fix things. I'm worried about what that would mean and the direction that would mean society is heading towards. Because if the truth is shut down, then, think about all the things you wouldn't even know about going on in the world right now if it wasn't for independent media, you know? Things that wouldn't even be being covered or things that would be being covered completely one-sided. And when you look at it on a worldview, you realize an imperialistic side. We're the terrorists of the world. We're the bad guys. When you really look at what's going on, we are the bad guys. We come out on the villain side. Start to understand why certain people hate America. You know, well, we'll get into it. It's one of the topics that somebody wants covered, but it ties into this. Is everything is controlled and it's being squeezed. And now it's corporations that are doing the censoring, like YouTube and Facebook and Google. And everybody's okay with it and looks the other way because it's a corporation. But if they have the ability to silence you on a massive scale, does it matter that they're a corporation? And if they have that ability, since there is no other venue for this type of sharing or a platform for this, shouldn't they be treated as a utility? I don't know. I think it's like the mail or the telephone at this point. You need it in order to reach an audience in the internet community. And it's harder and harder and harder to do. Everything that I do is throttled pretty heavy. Hey, Helen. There's some people here on Facebook. Hi to everybody on Facebook, by the way. I wanted to start with a little bit of a monologue so there'd be something for somebody to watch if they click on this later. But we can get into anything at all. I have some stuff written down that I want to talk about briefly. Each thing we're going to hit briefly and just see what you guys are into for a topic for this coming episode for this week. And this might be a regular thing, because when I'm researching, I get bored and I like talking to you guys. But we need to spread the truth. We need to wake people up. We need to take ownership I was actually making a video. Well, I don't know what it's going to be. I was writing something, a little thing. We'll just call it a little thing. And the whole theme of it was that we got to own this. We got to do something moving forward. We do. We need to wake people up. So this show's for the woke. You know, whatever we want to call ourselves. That's kind of cliche at this point, but whatever we want to say it, however you want to say it, the aware. Those that understand that we're being lied to on a massive scale. And it's made in a way that's kind of friendly. And you know, so get it out. Maybe people will watch it and they'll hear something that might surprise them. Like, for instance, just something that should be common knowledge, but that Julian Assange is not a Russian spy. He's a journalist who has an organization, a journalism organization, a media organization called WikiLeaks. And they publish information that is leaked to them. They're not even spies, right? They're not hackers. You're being misled about the whole thing, you know. And the media is a topic that someone is asking. The history of the media is a topic, and the history of how it's been turned into a weapon is one that I have written down to get into. But that's what's being used to make it look like Julian Assange is some kind of a super spy from a Bond movie. It's just not true. It's not the case. And we can't allow it to happen, what's happening. We can't let it happen. We can't let Julian Assange be persecuted for spreading the truth. That truth, what will we do without that? You know, think of what was revealed in the WikiLeaks. You know, in their existence even, but just recently, just look at what's been revealed. Where would that go? What's the incentive for anybody to step in and take its place? To have their life destroyed? To be facing extradition to the United States for crimes against the United States? It's got to be terrifying. I'm sure there's people lined up to be the next one to offer truth a venue. But I don't know. Doesn't look good. Doesn't look good at all, really. Unless we do what we need to do. Hey, Kathy, Woken, Michigan. So many people have no idea who Julian even is. It amazes me. It amazes me. I don't know how that can be. Well, I do know. We live in a country with a weaponized media. Our media is weaponized propaganda. It has been for a very long time. It's a weapon used against us on a daily basis to keep everybody misinformed and misdirected. And they lie to them about who Julian is if they tell them about him at all. You know, they're very deceptive in their practices. So, if the average person's even heard of him, they think he's some kind of super spy. He has provided a platform and for truth, a place to share truth that powerful people don't want shared. It's not beneficial to any of these people to be whistleblowers. What has happened to them for doing so? What happens to your average truth teller or your average whistleblower that comes out and speaks truth to power? Tell the truth, man. What happens to them? They get killed. They get their lives ruined. We're up against a lot, and it would take us in mass to do something. No one could do it alone. No one person could do it alone. it would take us as a group doing something. We would have to be united in some way. And I don't know what that'll end up looking like, but I think that's where we're heading. I think it's inevitable if things keep heading in the way that they're heading, that we'll eventually fight back. You can only back someone in a corner for so long until they fight back and lash out. And we'll eventually reach that point, but how bad will things get before we do? And that's why I think we need to wake people, and we need to do all we can to wake people up. And that's what this little show's about. But the next thing that I wanted to talk about is also something that's being suppressed by the media. And I'm going to be honest. I'm always honest on here. I am honestly feeling repetitive bringing it up, but it needs to be brought up. The Epstein story. Jeffrey Epstein. That story, it's very important that story doesn't go away. I love the Epstein memes. Fantastic. Humor is a fantastic way to spread truth. It's a good way because people get their defenses down and they're more apt to let things in. So I like that. But the topic that somebody suggested was, is Epstein still alive? They wanted me to do whatever I could do to look into whether or not I think Epstein is still alive. What is the interest? Is there interest in that as a topic for this coming episode of Conspiracy Theories and Chill? And do you see why someone would think it is? It's not outside of the realm of possibilities. I can't say that it's too crazy to entertain. James says no. What, you don't think he is? Or you don't think it's interesting for a topic? That's what we're doing, James. If you just got here, I'm not sure how long you've been here, but we're kicking around topics. This is research time, and I wanted to do a feed for VK. We now stream to VK in Russia, and I haven't seen any comments on the screen there as of yet. We're still building it on. It's only got like 7 friends on VK, but I wanted to do something. I was asked by the one person that messages me on there to do a feed for VK. He said this was a good time, and I had this stuff I wanted to ask you anyway, so I figured we'd do it. But I'm either going to cover that or one of these other things. The history of the media, I think, is really enticing. That sounds interesting because the way they wanted me to look into it is the history of how the media became a weapon. And I think that's important for people to see. Like, that would be interesting. That would be fun to cover. And so is there any interest in that one? Like James says, rich peeps don't interest me. Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know. Some of the stuff that rich peeps do has to, because it affects us. And that would tie into this. Someone was asking me, and I've covered it before, broad stroked, which is be pretty much what I would have to do this time because it's blanket. The Illuminati. They were asking if I would cover, like, do another video on the history of the Illuminati. But then there's a lot of that's up to interpretation. Like, what do you consider the Illuminati? Is it more of what you're thinking of? When I say Illuminati, you think of a certain group of people. Is it that or the historical definition of that group? Which I think are 2 separate things and can get into 2 different variations. So, I don't know. I think the person was talking about the people behind the curtain today, the Illuminati. When you say that, you know exactly who you're talking about. Even cartoons make fun of it. McCarthy says the CIA has ran this country since 1963. They need to be broken up into a million little pieces, as JFK said, then he was murdered. That's true. And that's another reason why I wanted to do the feed for VK, because uh, I think this will be a fun show for them. That site is all about truth. I don't know if maybe I picked a good group of friends, but I only have like, I don't know, 10, 15 friends on BK, and they are all about sharing truth. That's like all they do. And they're into other stuff like deep rabbit holes. It's pretty cool. But there's one that is a personal for me. This one is this is something that just bugs me. Uh, I did a Titanic video. There's a Titanic conspiracy that the ship at the bottom of the ocean isn't actually the Titanic, that it was swapped, and it's actually the Olympic down there. And I did a video on that. It's one of the very first videos I ever did. And I don't understand why no one's commented on Facebook. There's like 15 names, of people that have been here, but I don't know. I'm just going to keep talking. It's weird. I get throttled real hard on Facebook lately anyway. I almost don't stream to them anymore. I almost only did this to VK and YouTube. Honestly, it's real bad. Like the death of truth that I was talking about in the beginning, it is true. It is real bad. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm honestly afraid of what's going to happen with this new YouTube stuff. And I also saw a video talking about some fines being talked about for YouTube video creators, in upwards of $40,000 fines. Like, I don't know. They're gonna shut everybody up, man. They're gonna shut it all down. It's scary. It scares me. Not only because I want to do this as a job and I want this to be my job and I want to spread the truth, not only because that and I'm passionate about it, but because I see why it's so dangerous. Without the truth, without being able to expose the things that are going on that the powerful do, that of course they do. It's not crazy to believe that they do. And like Kathy brought up JFK, in one of his final speeches, he was pleading with the media to do their job and be the fourth wall of the government and hold the government accountable. They don't do that anymore at all. There's no accountability. They do whatever they want. And there's no one coming to look into them. And if somebody does get overzealous and get a scoop, and run and tell their editor, I got a story on, like Jeffrey Epstein, for example, their editor, to bury it. We're not publishing that. You know what I mean? The truth is dead. It's dying. Or I think I just killed it. No, it's not dead yet. It's on us, though. We've got to do all we can to wake people. I think that's the way we fight, by spreading the truth and waking people up. I think that's how we protect it, is to spread it. And just be more surgical when you do so. Like, you can't just slam it into somebody's face like a pie in an old movie. You gotta ease them in. And that's what this show is supposed to be about. But the Titanic video, I was talking about that. I want to redo it, but that's like personal. That's just me, because I am so upset with the editing in it. It's not the content of the video, you know, although I would probably rewrite it too and do a full redo on it, but the editing is so bad. I can't even stand to watch it. And it's one of the most popular videos I have. It still gets interaction to this day. so I cringe every time I watch it. And I know that lightning never strikes twice, so the second video will not be as popular as the first. The first video has almost 50,000 views on YouTube, or I don't know, 40,000. Somewhere in that ballpark. A lot of views for my channel, way more than any other video gets. The editing is so awful. And the story I think is good, so like I want to make a better video about the same story, but that's personal to me, and I keep wanting to slip it in. So if there's any interest in a redo on the Titanic video, or you haven't seen the Titanic video and you would like a redo, hey Paul, top fan, my top fan is here. I really love your badge, Paul. It's really nice badge, and I like how you took the ownership of being the top fan, you know, and you knew that you belonged to you. But you just now got the notification. You're the top fan. Yeah, I've been live 20 minutes. I know. Dude, it's awful. It's awful right now. Things are bad. And that's what the beginning monologue was about, was how the truth is being shut down. And this is just about, we're kicking topics around because the regular night for the show is Wednesday. Hey, Jay. I just saw Jay show up. The regular night for the show is Wednesday, but there were some suggested topics, and the ones we've covered so far, just to bring everybody back in, is Epstein still alive? Like, we all know he didn't kill himself, but is he still alive? Somebody was wanting me to cover that. The history of the media, specifically how the media became a weapon. That was a topic that we may cover this week. The Illuminati, which is kind of broad, but I would break it down into what we all know the Illuminati is when you think of the Illuminati. Redoing the Titanic video. Mandela's and CERN and the connection between the two. That's something I threw out in a live feed on YouTube, and there's been some interest expressed in a video on that, like to actually go into it. Because I talked about some of the stuff with CERN, which there's a lot of weird stuff with CERN. And then we also kicked around some Mandelas, which is super fun. Anybody who wants to kick around Mandelas, we can totally do that. I'd be in for that for the rest of the night. We can do that for the next 4 hours. But there's a connection between the two, I think. And I kicked it out during a feed, and some interest was shown in that theory. And I'm thinking, it's not my theory. I'm not the first one to say it. I'm not trying to take credit for that. I'm not that crazy, but I really think so. And the more I look into CERN, the more I think it. CERN is weird. They do weird things. They have really weird practices. Kilo says no notification. So Paul, YouTube's having the same problem with no notifications. They're not getting notified on YouTube either, apparently. But James says, was the first time I heard that story. Was a good show. Olympic, had no idea. See, I'm being too hard on myself, aren't I? I'm so hard on myself when I watch that back because I'm like, the editing. There's like 3-second pauses in that video. And I'm like, oh, it feels like 12 seconds to me when I listen to it. But that sucks that you didn't get a notification. That's the stuff we're dealing with now. And I hope a good platform rises up in their place and gets popular. And we got a place to go. And if the truth doesn't get shut down, but they're shutting it down right now as much as they can anyway. Do a show on LBJ. LBJ. Let me write that down, Paul. LBJ. He was a jerk. From everything I've ever heard about him, he was a terrible person. And he was apparently extremely well endowed and loved to show people that, and like would use the bathroom in front of people and all kinds of stuff. Was a weird dude. That would be interesting. And I'd love to learn more on him, so I'm going to double star that one. I've been putting stars next to everything when I bring it up, and then I'm going to tag it every time someone brings an interest in it. And that's how I'm going to pick. And then, this will probably be a whole month's worth of shows that we come out with at the end of this. But it was just, I wanted to do the feed. I'm going to be honest. I wanted to. I made it 30 minutes without telling anybody that, but I wanted to do it. I like doing these. And the VK thing, it's legit, but that's an excuse. I just wanted to do it. But Mandela's and CERN, is there any interest in that? Let me know. But moving on to, hold on. Yeah, moving on. I just watched this tonight, and this ties in with the last one. These two are tied in together, but they're different. So they're both different subjects. They do tie in together because they both have to do with outer space. I watched this video earlier tonight, and it's Stanley Kubrick, one of his last interviews. He did an interview with a filmmaker that the filmmaker wasn't allowed to air until 15 years after his death. And he describes in detail doing the moon hoax, filming the moon landing videos, and talks about how Neil Armstrong asked him to share the truth and spread the truth because he couldn't do it for various reasons. But it's a very interesting interview. I've seen people try to debunk it and things like that, but it's fascinating to watch. And I just watched it again tonight. I had it on my mind because I was looking into other stuff that has to do with outer space with Corey Goode. Someone had me looking into Corey Goode's research, and that is fascinating stuff. But again, I'm kind of out of my depth, for a couple of reasons. One, I don't know a whole lot about, the things he's talking about are pretty deep actually, but they have to do with other dimensions and time travel and space travel and secret space programs and all kinds of stuff. It's very interesting. But as a lot of you know that watch the show, personally, and again, I don't let this interfere, I would cover it no matter what. I don't believe in that stuff. Personally, So I don't know. I don't know what to do with that one. I love it though. I've been looking deep into it. It's fascinating. And it's neat. And explains a lot. If true. He's very good at laying it out. It makes sense when he says it. Some people are good at that though, telling a pretty story. But let me know what your interest is in that. And maybe I need to explain a little more. But he also talks about having connections with two different alien races and being shown how the world's going to meet its end. So there's all of that involved in Corey Goode stuff. That it's fascinating though. And there is a secret space program. Like you start digging and you find out this stuff's real. But again, the Nazis had a space program, and it all depends on what your definition of outer space is, how far they got up a rocket. But in NASA's definition of outer space, the Nazis made it to outer space. They didn't put a person in outer space, but they shot rockets up to that level. Past that level, NASA defines outer space. I don't know. I was going to attempt to remember it off the top of my head. But the Nazis, I did a little research on their secret space program. They did have one. But they were attempting to do stuff like that all the way back in the Nazis or the World War II time. And then they brought them same scientists over to America during Operation Paperclip and continued the research over here. James says CERN has a new plasma toy. Kilo says, odd, the first captain of the Titanic might be related to me. Family originated from the area he lived. That's interesting. V1, V2 was the ramjet one. Oh. He took over the. I don't. I'm not. Oh, the plasma toy. They might be talking about CERN's new toy. But let's see. Anybody here on Facebook, go ahead and talk and comment anything you want to get into, and let me know what your interest is in any of these topics, like Corey Good stuff, the secret space program and outer space. It's fascinating. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. And then he theorizes. Well, he doesn't theorize. He claims that he's seen it. That they showed it to him in a vision. He saw the world end, and it's wiped out by solar flares, and that's really what NASA's purpose is and always has been, is to research these solar events and try to predict when the next one would be, you know, and so we could plan for it or prepare for it or whatever. I don't know. That's what he's saying NASA's purpose always was, that space programs existed before NASA, and we already were doing, outer space stuff. And then they needed a public space program, so they made NASA. But see, I think NASA's fake, all right, but I think it's a lot simpler than that. I don't think it's, you know, I think they're just a propaganda and money laundering operation. They funnel money into that, and they put out cartoon imagery and fantastical stories about going to the moon. And I don't think it's far fetched that Kubrick directed. He said he did missions 11 and 13. Didn't do 12 and didn't do any of the others. But that's fascinating. I got no reason not to believe him. There's a lot of problems with the moon footage. The moon footage, the moon footage is fake, at least. I think they got to at least own that. They got to at least own up to the moon footage is fake. Whether you think it was faked because they had to fake it or what, it doesn't matter. I think you got to at least own that the footage, there's problems with the footage. So, but Kubrick in the interview called it his masterpiece, said it was better than any movie that he ever made. And that was the only part of the interview where I was like, maybe this is a dude pretending to be Stanley Kubrick. Maybe this isn't really Stanley Kubrick. But does the definition of a good movie to him mean that it fooled people? Like it, because then it's the best movie ever. Because it convinced people of something that is unreal and impossible, and made them think it happened, to the point where they'll mock you for saying it didn't. You know, that's about as far as I really go. I think all the moon missions were fake, and I think we can't leave low Earth orbit. But I only think that because that's what they say. You know, but for some reason that makes me crazy. That's like about the craziest thing that I'm into, though. But I love conspiracies of all kinds. So anything you're into, bring it up. We can kick it around. But out of those topics, what are you guys interested in for this week's episode? I've been putting like a little dash next to stuff when anything's mentioned that's kind of similar to it. But Kilo says the German space program involved the V2 rocket. Oh, yeah, okay. I got you now. We set up a type of relay station to bounce signals to spy on Soviet Union when cameras were turned off. Just for spy reasons alone, I believe it. Oh, the moon. The moon mission. Well, then what's wrong with the footage? Like, explain the footage to me. I'm okay with, you gotta tell me why the footage is fake, though. There's a lot of problems with the footage of the moon footage. And they even got caught faking some of it. Like, a British documentary was released where they showed them faking the Earth from space picture that they shared out from the moon missions. But I just don't get why they would lie about some things and not others. Well, what do you think, Kilo, about Corey Good stuff? about there being a secret space program and interplanetary travel being a reality. And he says that to these alien races, that time and space, they don't matter. They're beyond those things. They can move about in different dimensions. It's very fascinating for one. I mean, it's interesting. I don't believe it, but it's interesting. But I don't know, cause I don't believe it. For me, it's like listening to a science fiction story. Maybe that's why it's interesting to me. Kilo says secret space program, of course. What they've done, who knows? See, I don't think so. Maybe, but I'm wrong a lot. Ask my wife. So it could totally be another instance of that. I just don't think they do have a space. I think the one they have is fake, you know? But they have a deceptive origin, and, it just, there's a lot of reasons to doubt NASA, for instance. And then I start feeling like when you can poke holes in one part of something, then you probably can poke a lot of holes in it. And you're right. If they could go to outer space, there would be a secret space program. Of course there would, but I don't know why I don't believe they can. I just don't believe they can. I guess because I believe they faked the moon stuff. And why fake it? The only thing I can come up with, the only thing that makes sense to me, is they had to fake the moon footage because they couldn't get actual footage through the radiation. They would damage it or whatever. I would buy that if they told me that. If they're like, "Hey, we had to fake it because the all the footage got ruined and the pictures all got ruined in the travel, so we had to fake it." The Kilo says the Russians beat us to the moon with a rover. Well, okay, okay, hold on. Is there a rover on Mars? Like, do you believe in the Mars rover? And bonus question. Well, I'll wait. I'll wait. I'll wait for the bonus question. That's one I've thought about covering too. Is the Mars? Let me write that down because I want to look into it more. Russians beat us to the moon with a rover. I hadn't heard about the rover. I knew about they were the first manned mission, and then the Sputnik, of course, but everybody knows about that. But this is interesting. Keel says, yeah, it was designed by the same Russian. He was a tanker in World War II. Hmm. So the Mars rover, maybe that was what he was answering. Who's taking pictures of the Mars rover? Like it takes really good pictures of itself. Are they photoshopping out an arm like a selfie stick? Because in these pictures of it, there is no selfie stick, and some of them are from 40 yards away. So it's weird. Other thing I thought maybe there's two rovers. You know, I don't know. What do you think about colonizing Mars? You think that they would ever do that? Or that would ever be a possibility? Because if you're into a secret space program, then, and I would agree with you that they are way more advanced than they've ever told us. So they must be capable of things like that. Maybe they are capable of, who knows what they're capable of. James says the full moon was seen all over Earth last year. The full moon was seen all over Earth last year. I don't know why I'm spending so much time on that. trying to figure out what he means by it. Kilo says, few rovers on Mars, Russian guy only designed first one. Oh. Few rovers on Mars, Russian guy only designed the first one. So the guy from World War II designed the Mars rover. Wow. That's crazy. And you'd think they'd have some young bucks come along in all this time. But maybe he just had the best design, you know? I mean, I don't think there's a rover on Mars, for one, but there may be. Maybe. But no, it's just hard to believe, you know? It's fantastical. Like, I can't get a cell phone signal where I'm sitting, but you can send a high-def picture from Mars. I don't get it. Like, how you sending it? What are you bouncing it off of? Like, I have so many questions. James says yesterday, spell check. Oh, the full moon was seen all over the world yesterday. Right on. I love looking at the moon. That's something I really like doing. I do that all the time. I'm fascinated with the moon. You know, I think they lied to us. They at least lied about big parts of the event, and maybe it's as simple as just lying about filming the footage, but some of it's a lie. Maybe all of it is. Who knows? Kilo says he came over during the Cold War. Yeah, we didn't get everybody. We in Operation Paperclip, a lot of countries were interested in the Nazi scientists, and not just the Nazi scientists. It was also the Japanese, and a lot of the Japanese research they wanted as well. So they swiped up all their researchers and scientists and all of that. There were a lot of countries that did. But let's see. What do you guys think for this week's show? I don't understand. On Facebook, I know that Paul likes using his top fan badge. So it's weird that I'm not seeing more comments. For those of you on YouTube and VK that can't see it, Paul gave himself a top fan badge. And it's the poop emoji. And it's pretty funny. James says turn the rover towards Earth and take one picture. Why? Yeah, that's a good question. Why don't they do that? Why don't they do that? Really? Kilo says Operation Paperclip came before this guy. Paperclip is how we got Von Braun. Yeah, no, I'm understanding that now as I read more of what you're saying. I didn't even know about this guy until just now, but I was just saying we did get a lot of that research from Operation Paperclip. But I guess that's the one that wins out. The moon. That's the one that's got the most interest in it. It's got like 3 stars now. I want to do the Titanic video again. I think that would be good to do. I know I shouldn't. I should leave it alone. I should leave it alone. It's done. But I can never leave things alone. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is Conspiracy Theories and Chill. We were picking a topic for this coming week's episode. Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Whatever topic wins out, we'll watch the comments and pay attention to what people say after and what they're most interested in hearing more about. And that's what we'll get into this coming Wednesday. But thanks for watching and hanging out with me. I'll see you guys Wednesday night.